Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Darick and Logan.
Hello, my ass is tired, but welcome to episode 184 of Flesh and Pod. My name is Logan. I am your host. Sorry for the delay on this one. I was still in Vegas and trying to be human, and Charmer was living in a cave. So
I had no power.
Yeah.
In fact, the lights on right now, as you see it, if you were watching the video portion of this, is strictly because I built this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Darick, I got one for you.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
You ready? What is the cheapest Eye of Ophidia on TCG Player right now?
The cheapest? I haven't looked, but obviously I know that it was going what it was going for roughly, and I know that it performed incredibly well. So I will say the cheapest unlimited one right now is we'll say $385 USD.
$565 US.
Okay. That was okay. I thought maybe it might be low fours, but I was trying to like, all right, no. All right, so I have an eye, if anyone is listening.
If you want it for $560,
Look, I'm a nice guy. You can get the fat discount, $550, and it's yours.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's the discount right there. That's the discount double check. You've got to. I just popped it open because of a listener question we'll get to, and so I was like, "Good Lord, what the fuck?" And it's like, all right, that's a thing.
I kind of knew. It's so funny. Like, I still expect some of those early Fables to do this repeatedly. This feels like World Championship 1 all over again. So if you're not familiar,
Heart of Fyendal spiked.
Heart of Fyendal was used in the Icelander deck that Michael Hamilton used to win the first World Championship, and it spiked to like $500 after that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I felt at the time, just like I feel now with Eye, where it's like, yeah, that's too big of a spike. I don't think it's deserving of that price, but the interesting thing about both Eye and Heart is they also pretty routinely drop well below what I think their value is. So like my Eye, no joke, my unlimited Eye that I own, I bought for $80. And I technically didn't buy it. It was part of a trade that I traded somebody. So if you're newer to the game, this is going to sound insane. But when I was trading my cold foil Corsham, because I opened 2 of them during Tales of Aria, the cold foil Corsham was going for like roughly $500.
About $500.
So I traded that for an Eye, Storm Striders, and then like a bunch of other Wizard stuff because I was interested in playing Wizard and Blitz at the time, and definitely got value. So my point is not that like I expect Eye to ever go back to 80 either, but Eye and Heart specifically, I think, are still very playable Fables. And while they are not like 100% always necessary or auto includes, the lists that do want to run them really benefit from them. And so I feel like we should be seeing them more often in lists. And we have seen Eye. So obviously Eye, if you're, again, newer to the game, it's pretty much always been played in Kano. It has popped up in versions of other lists though. Azalea is one that comes to mind, right?
Azalea played Eye.
The earlier versions of Azalea always ran it, prior to when we had like even more explosive cards, and then you had to really start kind of cutting down on your blues. But early versions of Azalea were pretty much always running it if you owned one. It's just a good effect. Like, opting is good, pitching for 3 is good. And I think that it's really funny. I think that as the game continues down the road that it is currently headed, I think that we're going to see more reasons to run the older Fables. And my reasoning for that is that a lot of heroes now newer classes anyway, I have noticed the trend in the design that they are either forced to run 0 blocks or at a minimum like 2 blocks or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the big knock against those gems and whatever in the past was just always like you know, didn't want to have a no block because it was a liability, right? But
they also started losing percentage once ponder tokens became a thing, because you always wanted to ponder to hit something for your arsenal. If you pondered into a gem, it was like,
sure, but like you wasted a ponder, but like not the 100% end of the world in my opinion. But the thing is like we have now seen that, like, really since I would say almost like since Bright Lights, because yes, like Bright Lights had a ton of stuff that blocked for 3 because it was Mechanologist, but we saw the influx of items, right? Mechanologist has continued to, you know, have those no block items be part of their game plan. Part the Mistveil came, and like, yeah, you can argue that it, you know, doesn't matter because all those heroes were overtuned, but all your chi inclusions were no blocks, right? So depending on how many you were running, you had some there. Now with Gravy Bones, right, you've got your allies that are no blocks. They don't block. And you know, we got the new gem that Kasai definitely wants to run, which is again a no block. Like, we just keep seeing it, and I don't hate it. I think that should be I think that should be a part of Flesh and Blood, is the fact that, like, yes, technically every card usually gives you multiple options, but I think that you should also be incentivized in the deck building to, like, solve that puzzle and figure out what your ratios are of things that, you know, may or may not, you know, always block. So I don't hate this trend, but as we see that become more of the norm, I do think you're going to have people that are taking a good long look at some of those, you know, early fables and going, oh yeah, maybe I should be running these, right?
Yeah, as a kind of a caveat to that conversation, your cheapest Heart of Findle is 258, so less than half. That's yes, these prices have been cyclical forever, and we just haven't seen eyes spike like this.
Yeah, I remember that first World Championship, you could get hearts for, I mean, it wasn't the standard, but like sub 200, like if you were looking, you could find them sub 200, and then they jumped to 500.
Yeah, somewhere between 4 and 5. Yeah, like I said, it just hadn't had an eye before, and so it's like, oof. And we had a discussion in the room in Vegas, and we will talk about that here shortly, with a buddy of mine, and about the Fableds in general. And he's kind of apoplectic about it, because we'll save it for an episode down the road again, but it's probably cycling back to the time we have to talk about the Fab is too expensive portion of the show again, because it's getting there, if not already there. And some of that has to do with some of the marketing approaches that we've seen recently, but it's probably a discussion for another day, because we do have a lot to talk about, and primary to that is US Nats. Now, I was there, I participated, I did not do well, but it was a weird one. I played Kasai and won round 1. Lost to Prism round 2. And, you know, when you sit across from a Prism, you have to hope like hell that the Prism doesn't know which game plan to play and chooses the wrong one. But it was Pheno, so I was like, well, that throws that out the window, so I need to be able to burst him down before he gets online with his auras. Wasn't able to. Okay, fine. Next one was into a Florian that I drew with. They kind of didn't, lack of a better way of explaining it, they didn't know they were dead. And, obviously I can't just like say, this is the next card off the top of my deck that I'm going to draw, so you're dead. And so, game actions happened, and okay. Then I ran into a Vinset where they played magnificently, and I had 11 coppers and in 30 cards never saw blood on her hands, which, not great. And then to make sure that it was a perfectly cursed tournament, I got paired into Kano. Again, I have never registered Kasai at a major event and dodged Kano. Full stop. Why would this one be any different? So at 1-3-1, I was dead going into draft, but I still drafted Ian. Then I just scooped my opponent because it was wild. Our draft table was, like Nate Snyder, Mara, Claire Stanfield, like players, right? At this cursed draft table, Mara like forgot to sleep or some shit and started out 0-3, but ended up cashing Nats because she's 6-0 draft, and then brainy wakey uppy, and was able to play well enough in CC to cash on day 2. But like it was just this insane draft. Like for this low down, this draft pod made no sense, and just kind of was like that reminder of this game's fucking hard, and it isn't the same players always winning. I talked to Michael Fung like earlier. I think it was on Sunday. We were just kind of just having a quick conversation with him, and he was like, "Yeah, sadly, I qualified for every event this weekend. Like, that's not what you want." He's like, "Nope, sure don't." So, for those of you that don't get that one, qualified for Nats, then qualified for the calling by not day 2ing Nats, then qualified for the battle hardened by not day 2ing the calling.
Yeah.
Again, now
it's one of those things that sounds really impressive when you're like, "Oh, you qualified for all of them," but it really means like
it's the opposite. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the cascade of consolations.
Yeah. And so, like, you looked at the list of players that didn't day 2 Nats, it's impressive. Then you look at the list of players that went on a run in Nats, and it's very impressive. So again, game is hard. That's kind of the moral of the story when it comes to the game. Nats was won by U.S.Bae. Now, we had said over a year ago that if Majin ever learns to draft, it's kind of over for people.
Yeah.
Well,
stood by that.
We stand on business around here, and kind of looks like Majin learned how to draft. So,
secretly just a pirate fan, and that's what it took him to be like, "Oh, let's
play a non-pirate when I'm a pirate fan."
Yeah. It's the set that got him excited. Look, the One Piece is real. The guy's named U.S.Bae. He loves anime.
True, yeah. That much is true. But yeah, so Majin won on Verdance in the finals over Jacob Shaker on Gravy Bones. It was a wild final.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Yeah, there was a Psych Below. There was a...
Did you just call it a Psych Below?
I did. All right. I'm keeping that one. And there was the presentation of AB0 into a wizard matchup that had a lot of people up in arms. There was there was a Whaler Humperdinck that was on the field for what felt like an eternity, just turning sideways over and over and over again.
Yeah. And it still wasn't good enough.
It still wasn't good enough. So it's a wild final to watch. I recommend going and watching it. Mainly because it also kind of shows how imperfect players are in this game, because playing the game perfectly is impossible. So there was a lot of backseat driving in chat and on socials. Apparently there's a conspiracy theory on Reddit that I just found out about.
But I would also like to point out that is, yet again, in my opinion, more proof that the game is growing beyond the audience that we've had up until now. Like, all the signs have been there that the game has been growing. Stock is running out, cards are more expensive. there's constant new posts on not just Reddit, but also just like social media and all the other places that I look, where it's, you know, hey, it's either I'm a new player, how do I get better, or I'm interested, how do I get started, or blah, blah, blah. But again, as somebody who's covered a lot of different games, I can also tell you that the chat experience changes when games get outside of their normal audience, and that was very evident for this event, I think.
Yeah, it was. Kind of just crazy, the way it all played out. The top 8 of this event was not exactly what we expected by any stretch. So you had 2 Verdants. You had Majin and Lucas Oswald. You had obviously Jacob on Gravy Bones. You had Jacob Lance on Azalea. We did expect that one.
Yeah. The Florians.
Adrian Gebhardt and Randy Davis both on Florian. Andrew Cook on Prism. We did think that there'd be a Prism. And then Bert Cabrera on New. I think we kind of put New in that honorable mention category.
I think I had New in mine.
Maybe.
And then you, I think, honestly, if I remember correctly,
I think I had a Syndra.
Yeah. I think that you and I both, well, so that's just it. I think that you and I both had where the Verdances were, we had aggressive decks, whether it was Syndra or, because my thing was I thought for sure there would be a Katsu, for example. I remember that. But they just ended up being Verdances. But I remember saying that I still expected, I didn't say New specifically, I said one Assassin. I said it could be any one of the 3,
could be any of them.
But I expected one Assassin. But yeah, it just ended up being Verdances instead of the aggressive decks, which not
kind of an aggressive deck to a degree.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, surprising, but honestly, especially seeing the way that it was being piloted, you know, at the higher levels, I'm not as surprised anymore. And my reason is this, you know, I've been beating the stump for months now that Florian, you know, before Aurora LL, they were saying Florian's a better deck than people are giving it credit for. Going into this, I said Florian's still, I think, you know, possibly the best deck in the format. It's just a really good deck. And in part of that, it's because the Earth cards are just really strong.
They are.
And so it turns out, like, even if you're not on Florian, right? Like, I know it doesn't say Runeblade on the card, but if you still have, you know, Fell the Crown and even just Rootbound Carapace and some of those other, you know, impactful Earth cards where you can
Plow Under.
Yeah, you can do those things, like, you're still probably a good deck. And then when you pair that with a incredible player as well as a class specialist, like, you have a recipe for success. So
that's true. The calling in Battle Hardened, so the calling was won by Jason Rolfe. That one was limited. And then the Battle Hardened was won by Brody on Gravy Bones. Was a very late final. The hall was basically closed. They had stripped all the tablecloths and everything else. They were just playing on bare table. So that one went a little late in the day. The top 8 for the Battle Hardened was 2 Gravies, 2 New, a Florian, a Riptide, a Kano, and a Victor. So, not, you know, representation wise, the lack of aggressive decks is a little shocking, but overall, like, Riptide eats the aggressive decks alive. And Kano can at least race them. I'm not shocked by the Victor. I'm shocked that there wasn't a Victor potentially in the top 8 or anything like that for Nats, honestly. But I think this is the 5th set in a row where we have had a new hero on week 1 win a major, if I remember correctly, because I think it started in heavy hitters where KO won week 1, and then Mistveil Zen won week 1, and then in Rosetta Aurora won week 1, and then in Uprising Syndra won week 1. It was either Syndra or Mario.
It wasn't Mario, it would have been Syndra.
And then in this one, you get Gravy winning week 1.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, turns out sometimes the brand new tech is good.
Yeah. It's interesting. And again, like all of those heroes you said have had lasting success. So this is not a knock on them, but it doesn't surprise me that they find success early, because depending on the state of the field, not everyone has the same number of reps. Right. So like if you're somebody who is piloting the new hero, then you are probably going to have more experience in the matchups than anyone playing against it, because they're already trying to figure out their own hero against the field. And so their, proportionality isn't going to be the same. Right. So it's almost like you have like that hidden edge advantage, I'd say, for the first like week or two after a set when you're playing one of the new heroes.
Yeah.
You can still find success well afterwards, but it would make sense just based on sheer, because there's only so many games you can play, even if you're a quote unquote pro player, where it's like, hey, I'm spending all of my time prepping for this thing. There's still only so many hours in the day, only so many games you can jam, and so I think it's an edge for sure.
Yeah. So now let's get to the Vegas of it all, because I know what all of you really want to hear about, and that's not the game. That's the fucked up shit that happens when we are not playing the game. First off, I want to say a quick thank you to everybody that reached out to me after watching Az's blogs and asked me specifically to not die. That was very kind of you to request that I keep alive on this earth. If you want to see video of the shenanigans, it's there. It's on YouTube. Go Again Gaming. It's I'm pretty sure one of the videos starts with a conversation about whether it's possible to nut while shitting, because we are trying to discuss whether the muscle groups like are linked. Like, can you do both at the same time?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I mean, I really was just trying to think through it, and I'm not ready to do the science on it, but maybe, I don't know. But day one, we get into Vegas to check in on Wednesday, and Az has already been at the hotel bar for like 4 hours drinking mojitos, so he's pretty well juiced. And we go out and we have a pretty good night out to do stuff. The next morning, we get out of bed, and we have breakfast at 9 a.m. at Monamigabi, which is one of my favorite breakfast spots in Vegas. And I'm like, yep, we're going to go there. We're going to drink, we're going to drink gin for breakfast. And I was like, that sounds like a great idea. But we have beers in the fridge too, so we should start with those. I'm like, you know what? You're right. So I had a shower beer at like 7. And we were on drink 8 at like 9:30 in the morning at Monami. And I remember asking Az, I'm like, what time do you think we can have our 20th drink by? And he was just like, here's a good question. I'm like, 6 maybe? He's like, yeah, I think we can do 6. So we did make our 20th drink at 6 o'clock. And then Az went as his uncle lives in Vegas. And so he went to spend some time with his uncle. And I was just going to go to the sports book because I had money on the Pacers and the Pacers OKC game. So I wanted to go watch that. And while I was there, a bunch of people like had just arrived and were in the sportsbook area jamming games and stuff like that and hanging out. So I had a rotation of drinks there. I think that the night finished on like 27, which would kill a lot of people. Then the next night was the Fremont night, where I told Charmer this. I am probably partially to blame for this, but I'd mentioned that Fremont Street is where you go if you want to see what the Strip was like 15 years ago, because the Strip used to be this degenerate place where you just went out and you went all night and you saw the sun come up. And I think Az is like, that sounds lovely. So when everybody else left Fremont, he's like, I'm going to stay here solo. And he did not walk back into the hotel room until 9 a.m. the next morning, after walking the 2.5 miles from Fremont Street back to the Westgate. So he went at it. And very proud of him on that, because Jesus fuck, that's a lot. I didn't. What was Saturday? Sunday was, again, I had money on the basketball game, so I wanted to sports book, drinks, basketball game. And Az got talked into going out with Rachel and Carolina and Ethan and Nathan, and he was a mess when he got back off that one. That's another good one on the video blog, the vlog. And I'm just trying to remember what Saturday night turned into, because
I'm also just trying to remember Saturday, but that's because I'm old.
Right. Right. There's that. Should I know we did stuff on Saturday night? I just don't remember the fuck it was. Nope. I don't remember. All right. And then we did the Bacchanal on Sunday morning. And again, we kind of just, there's a lot of stories to be had from the nights out. A lot of them are on Az's blog on Go Again Gaming, and they are hilarious. There's a lot of After Dark stories, because holy shit, sometimes you just get into it and you really don't know what you're about to do. Oh, that's right. We did China Poblano on Saturday night. That place is incredible. Like, absolutely incredible. But yeah, overall, it was great seeing everybody. It was great having all the people. There was a ton of people that came up to say hello at this event. So it was great seeing everybody, meeting everybody for some of them for the very first time. A lot of them were like, "Hey, we met at this place." I'm like, "I'm sure we did." And I have a hard time remembering, just because of,
just
unlike
say
Trummer.
You have a hard time remembering peasants.
No, a lot of times if they're less like, "Hey, I'm this on the Discord," I'm like, "Yeah, I remember that." I just don't remember real names anymore. It's painful. But I did play some side events. We will get into the props and slops of Nats and the listener questions, because there are both. And yeah, overall, I think that the experience was really, really good. But that was mostly the vibes and not the card game, but the vibes of hanging out with people and seeing everybody. That part was a lot of fun. It's really hard when you're in places that have things to do to show up and actually want to play the game once you're past the main event, right? And so in this case, didn't day 2 Nats, so I wasn't gonna play the Calling or Battle Hardened. There's an entire city out here that I can go and drink my way through.
I guess that's fair. I don't know. I still really like playing the events, but that's probably because I never play the game except for at the events. Right.
Your interaction points are less than mine.
The difference between you and me in Prague, right? I was at the table most of the time and you were not, and that's fine. Wasn't I? Not as much as me. There was a lot. There was a lot of time where I was finding you in between rounds.
Well, because there were Pilsners right outside.
Sure, but also there was lots of times where I wasn't just finding you, but I was finding you at a table with a stack of cups.
Yeah.
Okay, so the stack of cups didn't appear within the 15 minutes that the round was over or whatever.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Okay. Because sometimes they kind of do. Yeah, I do. So Prague was a little different, for a lot of reasons, but I do feel like with Prague, we, because I had a day that you didn't effectively.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of it. I obviously, the big part of why I just didn't keep playing the Calling was there was as and there were beers, and so I'm gonna go do the beers and as thing. That seems like way more fun.
Fair.
And then the next day I was a mess from the night before, so I just played Team Sealed. Wasn't gonna take it too seriously, but still played, like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't like judging you or anything. I was just saying that there was definitely the difference. But again, like, I also just know that usually when I go to those events, I don't know, I'm always like reinvigorated, and then I just like, I want to play the game all day and then want to go do stuff afterward. And then the problem is most of the other people are like, yeah, I am like burnt out. You know, I just think about all the times where like I've been at an event and I'm like, hey, you know, Brian or Josh or whoever, do you want to like get dinner? And you know, they're usually, they have a packed schedule, right? It's not one of those things where like I fault them in any way, shape, or form. But it's
they are
just
booked solid.
Yeah. It's just, you know, I understand that like my desired experience and schedule at events is usually different from other people's, but.
Right. Yep.
And then when I am officially out of events, it's still different from other people's. And it's kind of sad because like the one time where it would have probably been okay is at Vegas, because usually it's okay, who wants to go to the casino?
That's you.
But that's me.
Yeah. I did great at the casino this round. It was, I went and tracked through like how much money I brought, or like how much cash on hand, what I have left in my pocket, what I spent in cash. And I'm like, I'm up, you know, $650, and which would be like 200 on the two or 250 on the basketball games. Won both of those, and then just craps, like just playing craps.
Fair.
Great, yeah. Dagan did get eaten alive at the craps table once. That'll happen. Those storms get harder and harder to weather. I was one number off the 156-1 payout on at one point for rolling all of the numbers that aren't 7. I only needed 12. So I had the low, I just was 1 away from the high, which is crazy. I've never even gotten that close before. It's a sucker bet, but sometimes you just look and it's like, I got $2, fuck it. And then you start blasting numbers off the board and you're like, damn, I'm getting close. So, and usually I only bet one end of it. Like, only bet the low or the high. And if I would have just done that and bet the low, I would have won the 56-1 or whatever it is. Or I think it's bigger than that, but, which that'd have been great. But instead I was on the full sucker bet and I was 1 away, made me sad. But that was also on, like, I tripled up on that roll sequence. So it's like hard to be mad about it. You roll that many numbers before breaking and you're going to make money. Like, end of story. Yeah. So I was doing great there. So yeah, I mean, monetarily speaking and gambling wise, I did really well. All of my sealed pools were shit until the very last one on Sunday. And then that one was gas. I was like, oh, this is what this set feels like when it's powered up. Okay. This is good. And so I had a really good gravy deck, and I fucking still don't understand how Puffin works. I've tried. And I'm just like, something about cranking a bunch. Like, that's all I know. It's like, crank away.
You're like, I have 6 cogs and 4 action points, and I present 5 damage. I don't think that's how this works.
I don't think that's how I don't think that's good.
No, right. I was just having this mental image because I've watched you play it, so I could see you being like, okay, I'm supposed to do this, and you're like just doing the thing, like, oh, I can do all of these things, and then you get to the end and you're like, well, that's dumb.
Right. It's very anticlimactic. What the fuck? Yeah, that's accurate.
All right, just checking.
Yeah. Whereas playing Gravy in that last one, like, I got a rigor mortis on board after peeling cards out of his hand, so he wouldn't be able to kill the rigor. So the only thing he could do was play an ally out of his hand, and then I resolved a Kelpie out of my yard and locked down his ally for the entire game while still swinging with another card plus rigor in almost every turn, and just eating him. And I'm like, this is fucking violent. Like, my God. I didn't feel bad about it. It was just like, sure. I opened 2 gold packs or treasure packs and got a red charter course, so nothing, and then a tip the barkeep, which is not a nothing, right? Yeah. So that was fine. But that was pretty much the weekend. Honestly, it was such a good weekend, though. I don't want to like belabor that at all. I had a lot of fun. I had a really, I had a good time seeing everybody. Anytime I get to see Joe Sapp, I feel good. And, hadn't seen Elaine since Tampa. Hadn't seen, weirdly, I'd seen Az before basically everybody else. But hadn't like spent time around Mara for, we'd been at events, but we just hadn't had time to hang out. And so we actually found time to hang out. Yeah, it was really good. It made me kind of like feel that family feeling again. Which is one of my favorite parts of these events, is how it just feels like family. And, like Fast and the Furious family, but less Paul Walker dying. So
Less.
Yeah. Everybody lived so far. But that, to your point, I never got to say hi to Brian. I saw him walking around once. I never got to say hi to Sam or Ellie, like, at all. I think I saw Sam walking like 20 feet away once, and I saw Ellie from across the room once. And that was it. Because they were just slammed ass busy. But again, no fault. It's just, it's hard to get to everybody. And but overall, it's the coverage area looked good. I will get into the not good and with listener questions, because it definitely digs into it. But we'll get there here in just a moment, because we just have a bunch of listener questions, like a fucking slew of them. And I know we're going to be doing rules next week, so we'll save our rules discussions from this set for next week. We have lore that dropped. I haven't had a chance to read it, so really can't comment. Everybody else, you should read it, but I just haven't gotten to it because, again, very busy and doing things in Vegas and everything else. But we have some listener questions. Are you ready?
I am ready. Yes.
By the way, before I started recording this, because another thing I didn't get to do is I didn't get to watch Money in the Bank at all. And so I just went and watched the women's Money in the Bank match before we started recording,
which was great.
I'm just convinced that the women should have their own show, and that way I don't have to watch Raw anymore.
I'm very, very close behind. There's a handful of folks still on the men's roster that I would say I'm invested in. If you are behind, I won't like ruin too much, but like Raw had one of the best promos I've seen in a long time from somebody.
Yeah, yes.
So
I did see that.
Like there's a handful that I'm still invested in, but also some of the people that I really like are still out with injury too, right? Like Drew's got time off, KO's out for
Kevin's out
for foreseeable future. So like I'm right there with you. If they had just like an all women's show, like almost all of the wrestlers that I think are killing it are on the women's roster. It's hard not to like Rhea. I am a huge EO fan. But like Vaquer, Julia have been great.
Stephanie Vaquer is nuts.
I actually really like what Roxanne has been doing.
I think she's been great.
Liv has grown on me. I was not a fan of hers during the initial like her and Rhea feud, but seeing the things that she has done has made me respect her so much as a professional. She's great at her selling. She's not afraid to take some pretty like rough
vicious bumps
put people over. But also I think one of the things that and I noticed it because it was the same reason where I was like, I think I'm like actually enjoying Roxanne. Both her and Liv do things that many other women's wrestlers don't do enough of right now, which is like not be afraid to be emotive. So as silly as it sounds, the like Liv screaming at the ref thing, or like Roxanne screaming like when she's throwing blows on somebody on the ground, is great. Like I love that. That shows character during those moments. Like there's just so much. Like I love Chelsea Green. I love
the Secret Hervis is
Secret
great.
Hervis, the whole thing. Like there's just so many. Like good Jordan Grace, who is also fantastic, and then like if you go to NXT, like if you were just going to do all women's show, you could bring up a couple more people from NXT, because I think Sol Ruka, Zarya,
JC Jane, honestly,
like there's just so much talent. It's so wild to think that it is where it is, but I would take my top 10, top 15 favorite like women and put them against my top 10 or 15 favorite men, and I can guarantee that I would favor like a women's show. Yeah. Wholeheartedly right now. They're just killing it.
I think that the realization kind of came to me when I was, started watching the match. I knew the outcome, but I started watching the match, and I was just like, I would have been 100% fine with any one of them winning, any of them.
And it's just because like they all are talented enough. Like it's hard to say anyone deserves anything, but they are all talented enough where like I would say like, yeah, that's fine. Like I could see them deserving it, right? Like they've all put in great, like, yes, you can look at, the Roxanne, the Julia, the Stephanie, and say like, well, they're kind of new and they just got calls up or whatever, but like if you follow their careers, the work they've been putting in for the last 2 years for all three of them has been outstanding, right? Yep. Like I think the other thing that has kind of sold me on Roxanne, especially because she's like kind of heelish and whatever, it's giving me like 03, 04 Randy Orton vibes. Her whole like I'm the young upstart prodigy thing. Like I know she doesn't have family, like the whole legacy thing in the business, but just that like, yes, I'm the future and I know it sort of thing gives me that same vibe, and I loved that.
Yeah, I think that her character work has been incredible. All of the women in that match would have an awesome storyline having the briefcase, like no matter what.
They'd all have a great storyline, and the thing is so here's the other thing that I love about the women's division. All of them could work with any of the other women too if they needed to feud, right? It's not like we're saying like, what happens when you throw a Gunther and a Penta together, right? Like, do I think they can make it work? Sure. But like, there's at least that like, okay, but how that you have with the entire women's roster, there's not one of them where I'm like, I don't know how they, work with the other one. Like they just kill it.
I just sat there and had dreams of Stephanie Vaquer winning and doing the devil's kiss onto the briefcase before cashing in. Like, would have been perfect. Yeah. Talk about the most over move, like full stop. Like Jesus Christ.
I haven't seen something like this pop worthy since like
People's Elbow.
I was gonna say People's Elbow days. Like,
that was it.
Like legitimately.
Yeah. That was the last time I saw something like this absolute pop that happened.
I also had a thought because I watched it with my kids because they're into wrestling now. That's what got me back into it. Stark's really into it, and now he sends me videos all day long of like CVV interviews and whatever. It's just kind of really cool to see him going down his own like first fandom rabbit hole, and so like I'm here for it. But I had a realization watching with them that one of the things that I really do miss about those like late 90s, early aughts is that when there are those moments, right, when you have the People's Elbow, you have this whatever, those old shows, you also knew, like, you knew that it was an exciting moment, even if you knew nothing was going on because of the camera flashes. I miss the flashes.
Yep.
Like
the flash bulbs going
Rock
off
would spine buster somebody, stand in front of the crowd, and you would just see it popping off.
They'd start firing. Yep.
And if you don't believe that Devil's Kiss would get
so many, there'd be like time lapse photography of fucking.
It'd be a strobe effect. Somebody would have an epileptic seizure in the stadium.
Yeah, and it'd be Booker T. But anyway, that's enough wrestling. But man, I watched that and I was like, I was hyper entertained.
Yeah,
I was also hyper entertained that the person that took the Devil's Kiss bump was fucking Rhea, and it's like Rhea will put people over, has no problem.
Absolutely. I mean,
she is a mega star. Like probably she might be like she's in the same stratosphere as Cena, Cody.
Oh, easy.
And
the number of people I know who don't watch wrestling but know who Rhea is just huge. Like she has massive presence and rightfully so. But to your, like what you're saying, like she also has no problem with making other people look good.
Yeah, right. Not at all. And the crowd pop when the "This Is My Brutality" hits is always just absurd. So again, just she is in a league of her own in a lot of degrees.
Went through all that, incredible. Man. I didn't even mention like Lyra, Becky, Bailey, who just came back, right? Kairi Sane, the Pirate Princess, like.
Mm-hmm. Like you have so many, and it's like just give them their own fucking show at this point. And I'd watch that, and I just stop watching Raw.
Actually, legitimately excited for Evolution 2. So
yeah, I think that'll be really good. All right, let's get into these listener questions that we said we were going to get into like 15 minutes ago. The first one's from the Delusian data analyst. It's got like 4 questions in here. I don't fucking know. First says, I can't believe I broke my streak of questions while making up for it. Brute or mech for the upcoming CC meta, my dude. Brute. I mean,
if those are your choices, Brute or like Dash.io, but I would say KO.
I'd play KO.
Like of those choices, like I would play KO.
Very funny. Yeah, very funny. So Mo Bogsley and Dagan both played KO in Nats, and both of them died to randomly discarding Blood Rush like multiple times.
Yeah. Just
welcome to KOs, babe. But I would play Brute. Mech is, especially as a new player, to pilot a good mech deck, it takes a lot of interaction points, whereas Brute is a really good learning tool. So I would lean towards Brute, but there's no reason not to play Mech. Mech is still fun, but I would lean towards Brute. What are the biggest differences between Blitz and CC deck building philosophy? Time. In a Blitz game, you don't get many turns. There's just, you have to build your game plan around disrupting, get them dead. Or you have to build it to max disruption for fatigue. And that's it. The format is so fast that it's very difficult. Whereas CC, you can build to things like second cycles and stuff like that, where you can plan for a longer game to have deterministic outcomes. In Blitz, that's almost impossible.
Yeah, I would actually argue that I think your deck building has to be tighter in Blitz.
100%.
Because your floor has to be higher. Because much to what Logan's saying, like the games are already just like fast due to the difference in power level in Blitz, but also like you just don't have as much health as a resource, just full stop. So you really cannot weather bad hands the same way, you know.
Nope.
In CC, I can play Guardian and I can hit like back-to-back 4 red hands and like I'm in a bad spot, but I'm not
Block
out of
9
it,
and move on with your
right?
life.
But like that would just be a loss in Blitz.
In Blitz, yeah, you're basically time walking yourself, and that you can't win games that way. You just don't have enough life to weather those turns, and so it makes it much more difficult. Post Nat's question: how do we expect the Verdance win to warp the meta, or is this another forgot about Dre situation? This is not a forgot about Dre situation. This is 100% a. You look at the 2 people that were piloting Verdance in the top 8 of Nats. They are Caleb Van Patten and Lucas Oswald. You have U.S.Bae and Lucas Oswald, both incredible players with long resumes of success, playing heroes that they've been focusing on for the last several months. This is a lot of skill gapping, is what this is.
Yeah.
And I honestly feel like with this, like with Verdance winning, people are going to be more cognizant of how the deck works and what you can avoid to make it a matchup that's winnable from some spots, because a lot of people you know, once CYB was gone, Poison the Well left, and people may think about putting a copy or 2 back in there. I don't think they should. Verdance's matchup spread is very, you know, it's like it feels like early Bravo in how 50-50 it is into a lot of things, and that's where pilot matters. The funny story when Majin won Battle Hardened Portland after taking a round 1 loss because he didn't register for the fucking event, and then won out. And after every round, people are like, what happened? He's like, oh, this, and this, and this, and this deck fucking sucks. So you lost? No, I won, but I don't know how. That's just like indicative of what the deck is and where the gaps lie. Like finding those little areas that exist within the game plan to basically win, and finding those, like finding the line that says now I win the game, versus looking and going, man, my deck is doing shit, I'm probably gonna lose this. Instead, it's like, well, my deck is doing shit, but I'm not dead yet, so I guess we keep figuring this out. And I think that's where we are with it.
I'll say this. So I don't think it was a forgot about Dre, but I also don't think it will impact the meta a ton.
No.
I don't believe that there will be many. There may be some, but just like proportionality wise, I don't think there will be many players who were not already considering Verdance that magically pick her up as a result of this. No. So if you know people that have already played her in the past, maybe they revisit it. If you know Wizard players, maybe they shift from Kano to her or something. Just overall, the people who did well on the hero just always do well, but like in Majin's case in particular, is just also a Wizard main and plays a ton of Wizard, and I know personally has like thousands of games on Verdance even when she wasn't the best pick. So it's not everybody who's going to be able to like give away free points of health and then still win, but like Caleb's one of those people. I also, and so this was one of the things that, you know, I've been doing as you were talking, I was looking at some of the various deck lists. So Brody, who turned around and then won the Battle Hardened, one of the things I noticed is that his deck list is incredibly similar to Jacob's. However,
he has zero deck cards listed as a sideboard. It's all inventory.
But also the thing that jumped out to me, right? Because there was the argument to be made that Jacob maybe pulls that out if he could have actually found a throw caution to the wind. Brody just cut it.
Yeah, he
so
cut
like
from the deck.
if you're saying like, okay, you know, does this potentially change the meta? Brody literally took a deck that just lost in the finals to AB and was like, I'm gonna have less tools against this, and I'm just gonna go win an event.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so I don't think that it'll be a huge splash in the meta.
Right. I agree with that. It is fun. And it's a 0.5 win. So it's only half the points get awarded for verdicts.
And gravy.
And gravy. Yep. 0.2, 0.5ers. The next one's from Papa Jackal. For Logan specifically, and not Charmer, I mean it. There's a new store in my area starting Fab. One of the new guys has interest in Kasai. What are your tips for the Kasai new player pipeline? Fuck, man.
Don't play Kasai. That's my tip.
Okay, you're done now.
But he said specifically he wanted my point of view, so I had to get it in.
That's not what he said at all, but that's okay. So there's two things that I really want to hammer home here, especially for new players. The base version, not blinged at all, just the base version, basic bitch everything of my current Kasai deck. What do you think the cost is, Darick? TCG player low.
$847.23.
$2,420.
I was off by a little bit.
$2,420. Now, you can get rid of an easy 800 of that by cutting the Fableds, but you're still in the $1,600 range. You're paying assassin prices. And largely that's because things like Crown of Dominion are expensive right now. Dynamos are still expensive.
I wasn't factoring in. Yeah, that has jumped back up. In my head, Crown is still like a $40 rainbow foil, and I know that's not the case.
It's $220 last I saw.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to bring it back. We're bringing back Huntsman for a bit.
Yeah, go for it.
Fucking Regicide's back on the menu,
yeah,
baby.
Regicide on the menu. Fuck them.
Fuck them.
You know, you can take the playset of shelters and make them, you know, add more Fate for scenes. You can.
Yeah, what was up with that? One of the lists I saw, they were running Shelter and Fate, but no sync. I think it was Yuki's.
Oh yeah, Yuki's list. Yep. More important to
Yuki
know.
has sync. One of I swear one of them had.
There's one that was running sync. That was running Fates. Yes. But like your helmets alone are Crown of Dominion.
It was Bird. It was the new player.
It was the new player, yeah.
Yeah.
Balance of Justice, Crown of Providence, and Crown of Dominion are your headpieces. That's like $600 in headpieces or more.
Yeah.
You look at cards like Unsheathed are like 15 a piece. Blade Flurries are damn near 30. It's an expensive deck.
Playing Kasai is like playing Kasai. You have to have the money to do the thing.
You have to have the money to do the thing. Yep. It's on brand. What I would suggest, like, there are ways to make meaningful replacements for all of those cards. And honestly, replacing the things that are super expensive with less expensive options still leaves the core of the deck the same. So I would take like the Kasai deck. This moth is going to piss me the fuck off. I would take the Kasai deck, take like the one from Battle Hardened Milwaukee or Minneapolis or whatever. I think it was Minneapolis that Andrew Rothermel won with, and like replace, cut some cards from it, and there are some of the expensive cards from it, replace them with like things. The bigger thing is getting used to the play patterns. It was funny because we were sitting in the hotel room and it was late at night, and Az wanted to play Kasai because he's looking for a new bad hero since Azalea is good and is going to be leaving soon. And so I'm like, all right. And I gave him my deck to play. And he had already played without me in the room, had played a bit and into Marionette and was getting beat up. Right. I'm like, that's weird, but okay. And so I'm just sitting on the couch. I can't see the board. And the Marionette player, my buddy Brandon, would do a thing. And as be like, okay, no blocks. I'm like, nope, that's not right. What's your hand? I'm like, do you have a blue and a go again source? Yeah. Yeah, block with the other 2 cards. Who gives a fuck? I block with the other 2 cards in the boots. Okay, block 7. Yep, that's 7's good. All right, I'll send this back. Yep, taking whatever. Huh. Like, and then it was just, he ended up in the chain. He finally hit a hand, and he looked at the hand, and he's just like, oh, this is what it feels like. Then you have the fucking Infinity Gauntlet, because he pitched an Eye of Ophidia to a draw swords, and so he got to draw the thing he needed. And then sword for free, pitch riches for a Blade Flurry, in creating a gold. Then for a Blade Runner, and then play a Blade Flurry behind it. Get the on hit for the gold. Have 2 gold going into the turn. Another, and then make a vigor for the next turn. He's just like, oh, this is what it feels like. I'm like, yeah, this is what it feels like. But it's getting used to those play patterns. So if you're kind of getting new into the pipeline, just kind of build a basic version of it. The cards that are important are like the most expensive card that is super important to have is Valiant Dynamos. Second on the list, and it's a lot cheaper, is Blade Flurry. And the rest of it is workable one way or the other. But getting used to, I guess Unsheathed is like 15 a piece too. But getting used to the play pattern of 2 cards in your hand equals 2 swings of a weapon for a total of 8 value because of the dynamos. So you're 2 card 8 every single turn, and a 4 card 15, which is above rate, and that's all you need to be doing. And sometimes, because of the rate of the deck, they don't do anything that's threatening, and you keep a 5 card hand, and then you blast them for 20. Like, that's literally the deck. So, and it was, Brandon remarked earlier, is like, you were literally playing that game from the couch without seeing the board at all. I'm like, yeah, I've done this a lot. I have a lot of reps on this deck. But if you really want me to, Mikey, I can take and like shave down into like more of a budget build that would not be $2,000 and send it to you. I don't want to talk about how expensive the version of the deck that I have built is. It's unfortunately very, very expensive.
I mean, I will say, I think that you're spot on the money, even though they did not ask for my advice. But as somebody who has, obviously played against it, I think like the most important card is probably the Dynamos, because playing the deck with Dynamos versus without it is just like a night and day experience. Yeah. Which also, if you don't start playing Kasai, but you play against them, if you have ways to destroy Dynamos, destroy the Dynamos.
You should probably blow up the Dynamos.
I've seen so many people, like, old versions of just Warrior in general, where people would like, oh, I have this equipment destroy thing, I'll get rid of their tunic, and Dynamo is there, and I'm like, what?
No,
one resource every 3 turn versus 1 value every turn. Dynamos is gone every time.
Yeah,
it's that good.
That can't live. I mean, ever thought to yourself, what would happen if Carrion Husk didn't have Blood Debt? That's Valiant Dynamos.
Pretty much.
If it goes 6 turns, if it goes 6 turns, you have a Carrion Husk. If it goes over 6 turns, you have better than a Carrion Husk. With, again, no Blood Debt. And also just, it's a card that covers a breakpoint. every single turn. It's stupid fucking annoying.
Yep.
It was, again, really funny because the decks I had built with me, like I had a glass cannon Marlin build. That's just really funny. And then I had Syndra with me, and I had Kasai with me. And again, Az wanted to play. And he's like, all right, I'm going to play Syndra into this Marlin. I'm like, okay, well, you should annihilate me. And he did. He just was like, he didn't understand the lines of the deck, which, again, Syndra does not play itself. You do actually have to know a bit of what you're doing, and it takes some time. He's like, okay, so now can I play Kasai into Syndra? I'm like, do you just want to eat me alive? Because a 60% Kasai should be beating 100% Syndra. Because of Valiant Dynamos. And having 3 copies of Shelter to go with it, which is fucking stupid. Like, you just cover everything. It doesn't matter. You just get to bleed them to death. So yeah, that would be what I would do. Is I would get a base version of the deck, so you learn the cadence of the deck, and then the first big purchase should always be Valiant Dynamos. That's really it. Next one was from One Hit Wookie. There are only 3 cards that have Necromancer only rather than Pirate Necromancer in their card type. Do you think this is LSS being more careful with game balancing? They'll need to worry about the potential broken interactions of 3 cards if they make the next Necromancer a Shadow or Savage Necromancer, etc. Yes. That's what I have is yes. One, there was only 1 Necromancer in the set. Call a spade a spade. There, and having Pirate Necromancer and having Necromancer is on a card is an EV play if there ever was one. You're trying to make sure that you're not giving too many tools down the road to the next version of Necromancer you're going to do. In this, and also there's also theme considerations, right? Like, why the fuck would a Savage Lands Necromancer need a card called a Vasti? Like, pretty sure that doesn't fit. So there's that too, you know. But I do believe it's partially being more careful, and I think it is hinting towards Necromancer coming again very soon. Like, I think that we will be getting a Necromancer in the next 2 sets. A different ilk, but a Necromancer. That's my take on it.
You know, we've had the, quote unquote, all arcane set. I'm waiting for the all ally set when it's like
Dromai, Necromancer.
Yeah, I was gonna say Necromancer, Illusionist, and what would be a good third? I mean, I guess you don't need a third class because the all arcane was 2 and 2, right? So it could just be 2 and then 2 talents again.
Draconic Illusionist, Light Illusionist,
or it could just be like Draconic Illusionist, right? Like you.
Actually, we should have Draconic Illusionist, Shadow Illusionist, Plain Necromancer, and we can actually do Draconic Necromancer and Shadow Necromancer.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you could go with it, but
a Shadow Illusionist would be cool.
I want a limited set where it's just like the bookkeeping one, right? Like your tokens have tokens.
You want to have to VLOOKUP your fucking allies to then merge them with the allies from another sheet. So, you know what? No. We're not playing Excel.
Excel the game?
Yeah, Excel the game. We're already pretty close to it, it feels like, at some points. Here's another one from Papa Jackal. And I know what he's getting at here, because I watched this happen. With how much technology has advanced, we begin replacing umpires with AI to avoid them getting their feelings hurt and making a stupid call because of it. So what happened was, this was the Cubs game on, I believe it was Saturday. It might have been Sunday, but no, it was Sunday because it was when we were watching the French Open and the Cubs game at the same time. and Nico Horner takes there's a ball called a strike for a third strike, and it wasn't the most egregious bad call I've ever seen, but it was a bad call.
It was a bad call.
All's Nico said to the umpire was, "You're having a really bad day," and the umpire insta-tossed him. And it's like, dude, that's okay. And the best part is, so counsel comes out, Cubs manager, and he's giving him a piece of his mind, and I'm watching it happen. I'm like, counsel's just going to call this guy a cocksucker and get tossed. He's getting his words in now, and then he's going to drop the one thing you can't say, and he's going to get nuked from this game. And then the next thing I do is, if I can read lips right, was counsel goes, "Well, yeah, and you're a cocksucker," and he just gets fucking run. And I'm like, yep, can't say that to an ump. That's a no-no.
I'm convinced that
tossed.
all professional umpires got their career start by they were a cop, and then they like coached their son's little league
team,
and then they became an ump, and then because they have the same like power trip.
Yeah, that makes sense. I watched it happen in real time, just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is so dumb. Anyway, the next one's from Blaze Storm. You also planning on going to Montreal for the world premiere? TBD. It's not in my current plans, largely because my brother really wants to go to a game in Ann Arbor this year, and that is one of the 2 dates that is kind of tentatively in play for that. So it's a we'll see. I would love to. I've never in my life been to Montreal, and would enjoy a new city. The flights I looked at were not that bad. So, it's doable, and it's a thought. I just haven't gotten that far yet. As of right now, the only things I'm looking to do with Flesh and Blood for the rest of the year are Gen Con, and then Calling Kansas City, potentially Battle Hard in Chicago, and in Philadelphia and Worlds. That's the rest of my year. But again, can change. There was an announcement and I think that this got a little glossed over, but there was an announcement by Trevor Baker in Vegas that next year there will be a Calling in the Americas every month. So basically straight up WotC GP schedule from 2016, where there was a Grand Prix in North America every month. So basically, that's a big ramp up. Like, that's taking half the battle hardens and well, not half, but it's taking a significant number of battle hardens and upgrading them into callings. So there'd be a lot more opportunities to play in those like higher tier events for people as well. That's a good thing. It's also just points to the growth of the game again.
Yep.
Game just keeps on growing. Next one's for Vintox. Was arcane damage real, and did it hurt you? Yes. Yes, it was. And yes, it did. I can't... Funny, this game was very funny. That's against Kano. And I think my opponent is bricking. Because I'm getting damage in. He's blocking with cards that matter. And I'm like, okay, I think he's bricking a little bit. Okay, I might have a shot here. And so I'm like, all right, if he's bricking, this is the turn to do it. I'm going to go all in. And I play the run through in my arsenal. And my opponent goes, oh, that's what that was. And then blows me the fuck up. He's like, yeah, I was trying to play around the arcane snag. I thought maybe it was in your arsenal. You just had it sitting down there. I'm like, should have left it there. Huh. Might have got a free turn. I mean, I still would have died, but I would have got a free turn.
Yeah.
And maybe it's one of those where like I find like a hand of 2 shelters and I can discard them both and have enough reduction to not die. But nope. I just got blown up. Next one's from Goat Warrior Cultist. How do I deal with a damaged or / inflamed rib? There's no way to find comfort. There's no, you don't. You put on like something to protect the rib and go about your day. You're never going to be comfortable. It will eventually heal, maybe. But yeah, there's nope. There's nothing good. I have had a lot of broken and bruised ribs. There's no good answer. So my heart's with you though. I feel for you. I mean, it sucks. I've taken some shots. You know, that's just a universal statement for me. It really yeah. That's just the most evergreen thing when describing my life is I've taken a lot of shots. Huh. Well, both teams played hard, I guess. Last one's from Geeks First. What is the deal with supposedly the host of Nats keeping all the gold packs? I know in Indy, they did keep them. I heard from locals they did. Does this impact anything as far as how locals perceive events? Like, does that make it less or more worth it in this case? Just curious for your thoughts. I also heard some things around tickets and not being able to get the big cards based on the number of tickets per win changing or something. Needless to say, see some folks were unhappy. Okay, let's hop into the props and slops of Nats and where I think LSS can go from here. It was a shit show. There's no better way to put it. There was not enough product in the room. There was the prize wall was limiting people to 6 packs of high seas, tracking it by your gem ID. Worse yet, if you had, like, let's say you had me, Charmer, and 2 other people that all had, our 300 tickets to get our 6 packs, and we just wanted to all cash in at the same time, get a sealed box. What they would do is they would open the box and take the treasure pack out and hand it to you. Now, that feels scummy to me. And they were taking the treasure packs and putting them on the prize wall for 500 tickets. So effectively $50. That feels very wrong to me, because ultimately as well, you have all of the treasure packs that came out of all of those boxes and cases of high seas that were ripped for the events. They weren't in the pools. All the marvels that were in draft packs were pulled out. Those weren't kept with the draft packs. There's just, it feels bad. And I don't have a better way to put it.
And just further, as like, and somebody who wasn't there, right? But as an outsider looking in and hearing different reports, right? Because that's what's going to happen, right? Word of mouth spreads, whatever. I heard everything from they were pulling the packs and keeping it. I was told that they were pulling the packs, but the worker told them that they have to send the treasure packs back to LSS, like as proof that they weren't keeping it. But then I had other people say that treasure packs showed up on the prize wall,
which they did. I can confirm that one.
So again, it's either the message is it's chaotic at best because it's not the same story throughout, or worst case scenario, like people's mind is going to run wild with, they're taking them and profiting and blah, blah, blah. Neither look is good.
Right. And, it also was, I didn't see anything around them, the tickets per win changing. That was in all the events I was in, that was consistent. So nothing that I know of around that. But one of the things that was a thing from what I could tell was the cap numbers on events changing. So you would have, X number of tickets available for this sealed event. It's like, okay. And so I can, there are 300 tickets left. I can wait to sign up. And, until after I'm done with this match. And then after this match, 300 tickets are magically gone. And then you look at the event and you can tell that 300 tickets weren't gone. And that screams to me that it was also because, again, limits on the prize wall of the number of packs you can get screams a product availability issue. And that's a bad look. This is U.S. Nationals. And, for the, it's the company that owns and runs the game.
Right.
I understand that it's all run through Star City Games. And so Star City Games acquires product. But as I would think that they'd also be shipped product directly for this event. So what happened? We're getting to a spot where, and we've always lauded LSS's transparency, but we're getting to a spot with this specific situation where we are not getting the level of transparency that we're used to. And there are any number of things that could be the reason why, but at the very least, in my brain, they should tell us the reason why. They can't go into detail. Because we're, as a group of people, as players, are sitting around and going, where thing? What's going on? And we're not getting any information. And that's rough. That's very difficult. I would love to draft high seas. Increasingly hard to do. I would have loved to be able to turn my prize tickets into, boxes of high seas. Couldn't do it. That's part of the reason I didn't play through a lot of events. If I'm being honest, it's the prize tickets felt like they just didn't hold any value. There wasn't any reason to collect them to get a thing, because the options were more limited than normal. And I think that there are, and I actually did an interview with somebody while I was there. Swing for Lethal is the channel. And they just did kind of a quick, hey, I listened to your show. We're trying to get into Fab content. Can I ask you some questions on camera? I never say no to that. I am world's greatest dancing monkey. Go ahead and ask questions. But it was funny too, because he's like, okay, well, here are the questions. I'm like, nah, don't tell me ahead of time. I don't want to know them ahead of time. But one of them was, what's your hot take? And I'm like, okay. And I'm going to go back to it. We need to bring back supplemental sets. It has to happen.
Ooh, that is a hot take.
Because if you think about things like Shelter from the Storm was a majestic because of how impactful it was to limited. If it was in a supplemental set, it could just be a fucking rare. And then we don't have this problem. And you can look at things like the gold, the treasure packs. Put them in fucking supplemental sets. Perfect. Now you have a sales driver for your supplemental set. And you don't have this whole thing where they're just getting peeled out of draft boxes for events and then ported somewhere.
All right. So they kind of did it wasn't exactly treasure packs, but they kind of did the chasing with Dusk Till Dawn, right?
But they put it, the other thing that I said in that same interview was it can't be like a Dusk Till Dawn or Dynasty situation. Right. It has to be close to Crew and Everfest, where they were made for a wide breadth and not narrow.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really hard sell, just because the supplemental sets were not great sellers. And even when the sets were good in terms of cards and power level in them, they were still panned at the time. And so reviving them, might be difficult. And then like I even go a step further and it's like, yeah, you say, you talk about the shelter for this, storm and the Majestic due to limited and blah, blah, blah. But look, I don't want to think this of them because historically it's not been the case. But as an American, I am hardwired to assume that sometimes businesses do things to make money. And yeah, they could have made it a rare, but also, they sell packs when people are chasing shelters.
Yes, they sold every single pack of the hunted that they ever printed because they never printed enough of the hunted.
So I liked the supplemental sets. Again, like I still stand by, like I loved Dynasty, but I'm also an Arachne guy. So of course I love Dynasty, but I also just loved the like throne room stuff and that Marvel treatment. And I would love to see more smaller thematic sets like that. I'm also in the, I think, minority in that I like the like pool party skins that we're going to be.
I love them.
Right. The summer alternate arts for the heroes.
They're two of my heroes. So of the heroes I play regularly.
I would love to see more. So everyone's talking about like, clamoring for reprints and this and that and whatever. I don't want to see like Worlds Beyond Secret Layer style crossover stuff. But if you want to give me like a themed reprint where it's like, hey, what if, what if Arachne wasn't from the pits, right? Like give, in the future, right? Give me like, the alternate art of like, or, Savage Lands version of Arachne or a
Solana version of Arachne.
Right. Or whatever. And it's just like the entire like mini set is like,
okay. So
premium product, I'm thinking like Carbonite boosters, right? It's premium product, but you've got some alternate arts in there. You got some chase cards or whatever. I'd be okay with that.
You got me because like I started thinking of Solana Arachne, and all I could think of is when Skeletor goes golden in the Masters of the Universe movie from the 80s. Like that's what it would look like for some reason. The
Dolph Lundgren one?
Yeah.
Oh man, I need to have Stark watch that.
You want to torture your child? DHS will take him away.
No, here's the thing. There's so many movies from the 80s that were objectively bad that I loved, and they were formative to me.
Oh,
so,
I love that movie. It's trash.
It's so bad, but like that's one. And then like immediately I think of like other movies.
Crawl?
Beastmaster.
Oh yeah.
Gotta do Beastmaster.
Kodo and Podo were very formative to me.
Dude, I wanted ferrets so bad, and then my friend had a ferret, and I got talked out of it because when I went to visit his house, he was like, you have to be really careful when you open the fridge. When you go to close it, make sure the ferret's not in there. And I was like, what do you mean? And then I opened the fridge and it jumped in the bottom drawer to steal grapes. And I was like, oh. And I just know I would end up killing a ferret that way. I would forget that it was in the fridge.
Yeah.
So so that got me off of it. But yeah, Kodo and Podo were definitely
Licensed to Drive.
On the horror side, like I'm thinking like there's a lot of classic 80s horror films, but for me, that's one of the three. I was gonna say there were three that were really formative to young me. Okay,
so let me see how many I can get. Okay, so I got Leprechaun.
You might be able to get two of the three. I'd be shocked if you get the third.
Wishmaster.
So I like that, but it wouldn't have been on my list.
It's not on the list. Okay.
And none of the Puppet Master ones are on there too. If you're gonna go there, but
Critters.
So it wasn't going to be on there, but I think I need to add it. But here's the thing. For two reasons. He needs to see Billy Zane in Critters 1.
That's right.
But I'm going to jump straight to Critters 3 where you get the big ball critter that runs over someone and then there's the skeleton.
The Katamari critter?
Yeah. So that wasn't there.
But it probably needs to be.
But it probably needs to be.
Let me think here. That's
like those are at least like cult. I'm talking like even maybe a step below those are these
like
other
Troll 2?
Not well, one is probably on par with that, but it's not that one.
Okay. And we're still in the early 90s, late 80s type of thing.
Yes, definitely. I think both were objectively 80s. Let me look here.
Objectively 80s.
Yeah, so one is 87 and the other is
85.
Oh
wow. Okay.
Yeah, so when I say 80s, I'm talking like that B 80s horror.
So it's not Phantasm.
No. That one's a good one too, though.
That's actually too good.
Yeah, that's too good. That's too good for what.
Yeah, that one's actually just too good. All right, lay it on me.
All right, so Silver Bullet. Silver Bullet because I love werewolves.
Jesus Christ.
But also because like I've told my kids this like story
is it Monster
of, like,
Squad? Is the other one Monster Squad?
No.
Okay.
But I've told my kids several times this story of like the TV used to go off. Like you would just get static, like you'd hear the national anthem and then nothing, and that's in that movie. So like, and so the other one is The Gate.
Oh my God.
The Gate was another one, like from everything from the Geode to like the mini demons coming out and whatever. Like my good buddy, you know, who's passed away, like him and I used to rewatch a bunch of like 80s stuff. Like our go-to like weekend was like literally like order pizza, go to the local video store, right? You know, the Family Video, the whatever it was.
There used to be stores that rented you videos.
Yeah, it used to be like, it was like Blockbuster, then Family Video as that was being phased out and this and that and whatever. But it was pizza. We'd go find something that was like
trashy,
collecting dust, and then we would have a blast. And those were films like those two, Silver Bullet and The Gate. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a ton of stuff in that same era, right? Like I gotta show them Children of the Corn, I gotta show them all that stuff.
That
but
one's
like,
too good again.
But Silver Bullet and The Gate, like
Silver Bullet is so bad. Like it's so bad.
It's so bad, but I love cheesy werewolves, man. I really do. And it's the perfect cheesy werewolf. And in The Gate, so to give you the idea of The Gate, it's like it's practical effects that were also still like in that weird era where they mixed in claymation almost. Yeah. So if you think about like the creature from Willow, it's like
stop motion with hair.
Yeah.
On a lot
so
of
it's like kind of really like the creature from Willow, but like in a horror movie thing. But it also had all of the other reason that I think The Gate jumps out to me is it had all of the cliches from them, because it's definitely like the satanic panic. Like they play the record backwards and then it's like the devil opens the gate and
that movie actually, I mean, honestly, because Gate's 87.
Yeah, Silver Bullet's 85. I went and I looked.
Yeah.
I knew they were both like pretty firm 80s.
I had to double check this. I'm like, it's Steven Dorff, right? I'm like, yeah, it's Steven Dorff.
Yeah. So if you don't remember who Steven Dorff is, that's the villain from Blade 1.
From Blade 1. I'm just like...
It's a very young Steven Dorff.
Oh, yeah, very young Steven Dorff. Man. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think if, like, if I can theoretically think of a movie worse than The Gate, and I don't know that I can, because it's really bad. It's pretty bad, but I love it. Like Silver Bullet is awful, but actually it's okay. I'm Rotten Tomatoesing both of these. So Silver Bullet.
Ooh, the Gate has a 36 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Silver Bullet, 1985 film. Rotten Tomatoes gives this one a 43%. So, it is. I had 100% forgotten that Corey
both my kids have to see
like
Poltergeist.
But that's insanely good.
You're right, but I'm just saying they haven't seen it. Like, I need to. I started this a while ago. Sophie and I went through this phase where we were like, we're gonna let you like catch up on the 80s stuff. So like they have seen Alien and Aliens. They've seen Ghostbusters. They've seen like your 80s classics. Okay. In most regards.
My most formative one from like the god awful standpoint is a 1% worse than The Gate.
Worse? And now I'm intrigued.
Slumber Party Massacre 2. Remember that one?
I don't know that I remember 2.
So the villain in 2 murders the co-eds with a guitar that has a drill bit on the fret, so while he plays it, the drill bit spins, and that's his weapon. It is awful, and I love it.
I was curious because, again, I mentioned it earlier, Puppet Master's in that same vein. That has a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
People do love Puppet Master. I'm sure Phantasm has to be like in the 70s.
Phantasm's a 79?
Yeah.
I thought it was later. Yeah, that's a 73.
It's in 73%, yeah.
Yeah,
Phantasm's actively good. Yeah, Angus Scrimm was
another
shit.
hold on. Another one that got me. I saw both, okay, but as weird as it sounds, the second one resonated with me more. Warlock and then Warlock the Armageddon.
Jesus.
So Warlock the Armageddon got me for two reasons. One, when that came out, I was like entering my puberty phase and there were tits in it. But also, and so that was like one of the first films that, like, I think my parents didn't know it was in there, so they were like, okay, it's fine, it's a horror movie, and then it happened. But also I remember that the guy makes the map out of the dude's scalp, right? Like,
so like I remember when I was, because it would have been, I would have been like 9 when Warlock came out, and I remember watching it.
I was like 9 when Warlock Armageddon came out.
Yeah, so I remember watching it and asking my mom if I was baptized, and she's just like, "Yeah, we baptized you." I'm like, "Good." She's like, "Why?" I go, "Well, that way a warlock can't eat my fat to gain the power of flight." And she looked at me like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I'm like, "It happened in the movie I was watching." She's like, "What the shit were you watching?" I'm like, "Warlock." And my mom's like, "All right, I guess." Because that happens. Like, he finds a child and the child's like unbaptized, and so he just devours his fat.
It's granted, it's only got 5 reviews, but I've never seen this before.
What
Warlock
is this?
the Armageddon has a 0 tomato meter. 0%.
Oh, there's a couple of those.
After 5 reviews, 0%.
There is, so I think that if you go by the metric of it needs to have X reviews, the worst rated.
The first Warlock had a 56 though.
Yeah. So if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, right, and you go to Highlander 2, there are 25 reviews and it is 0%.
Yeah,
and
25,
then
okay.
And then on the pop commenter or pop corn
That's
meter.
the sci-fi one, right?
Yeah.
Well, like where he's in the future.
Yeah, the popcorn meter gives
that
it
one
23%.
is really bad.
It's awful.
That one is really bad.
It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. We should get out of here though. Fucking Christ, we're just prattling on now. But that's thanks to patrons, and we'll talk about all this later. First up is we have our associate producers. We have Aladoris, Andy, Sindra, Ejur, Jacob, the Quiet Goat, Salty Sea Cat Dog, Sofsky, and Zaris. For our executive producers on up, we have Blaze Storm, value member of the Patreon, Diana, Makaya. Diana did a sick Florium cosplay, by the way, in Vegas. But like, so we're off track again for just a second. They did the cosplay contest was really good. Diana had a really good Florian. Dex did Arachne Redback and had made the giant fuck off umbrella. And it is fantastic. Obviously Rachel was incredible. So it was a really, really good cosplay contest from the quality of cosplay standpoint. I thought it was really well done. Just want to get that in there. Makaya, Poxanus, Sergeant Bjorn, Vintox 18, the Delusian data analyst, and Philip. And then we have our Chargers Chamber of Charcoal participants. Brandon, you're up. We'll probably have you, my guess is end of this month, or may save you for a Gen Con preview or closer to it, because I know that you'll be doing a lot with the Learn to Play booths and such. Matt, thank you for being the first. That basically opened the floodgates, man. I really appreciate it to this day. The Jackal, obviously a goat, and Rich was fantastic as well. So far, so far this little experiment has been actually pretty great. I'm sure that somebody will ruin it in the future, but as of right now, it is actually going really well, and I appreciate everybody that's participated and hung out with us. It's been a lot of fun. We've been getting a lot of requests for Rich's other topics for rants, so he may get invited back just for that. You never know. If you would like to become a patron of Flesh and Pod, just go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. There are links in the show notes. Pick a fucking tier. I don't really give a shit. If it's a paid one, then you can come into FAP After Dark and you can hear the real stories of what Az did in Vegas. It's a lot, by the way. Those are usually monthly. This happen in our Discord, but you should join the Discord because if you need to contact us, that's the best way to do it. And that link is in the show notes. You could send us an email at fleshandpod@gmail.com. You could find us on BlueSky just searching Flesh and Pod, but the Discord's the best way to do all of this. I don't know why I have a pen in my hand. This just appeared. But Charmer, where can they find you?
They can't.
Terrific.
I guess Discord, but
they can't see you.
Not unless they drag me to an event.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can see me live soon.
Yes.
I can't wait for us to
be able to announce things.
Maybe be able to talk about things.
I think we'll be able to announce that next week, actually.
Yeah.
And talk about it.
Oh,
so
also, I don't know. I was gonna talk to you about this, but whatever. We'll just do it because we're recording. There is a new project that I'm working on with some fantastic folks that are going to be covering a bunch of different card games, and Riftbound is one of them. So if you're interested in that, you can give us a follow. But it's looking like we're also going to dive into some Flesh and Blood stuff, mostly just because of the people involved. Like more than half of us also play that.
What do you mean us? Because it certainly isn't you.
Well, because it's part of the us. There are other people,
okay.
And so as long as the majority play, some of them are like actually good players.
Casanova is actually good.
They qualify for things. So
yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So you can also, I guess, find me. Turn 'em Sideways is going to be the like overall project name. The Riftbound podcast we're going to be doing is The Winning Point, because Riftbound wins with points. So
there you go. I actually will, oddly enough, I actually have a couple of projects I have to announce too as soon as we get them worked out, and they'll be coming soon to a theater near you. But in the meantime, like, we'll talk about them when they come up. We got busier. I don't know how that happened, but we got busier.
It was like a really, really quiet start of the year, and then it was like, oh, by the way, back half of the year is pretty booked.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
Which I'm okay with.
I'm okay with this. Well, I guess that's our show for this week. So I guess next week's 185. We should have, theoretically, we should have the one and only Joshua Scott with us. So got to strap in for 12 and a half hours of recording. But that's the best part of it though. So
yeah.
Thank you all for watching, and we will talk to you next week for 185. Bye.